Is this the end of Homelander? Everyone. The answer is yes. This is the end of Homelander. And for those out there, the both of you who don't know what I'm talking about, May 20th is the last episode of Prime series The Boys. It's a superhero-ish TV show, and for those who haven't been along for the whole ride, basically the boys are about superhuman beings who are the product of this company called Volt. And in this world, instead of getting secrets about rockets from the Nazis at the end of World War II, Vault got the secret of how to make superhuman beings. And these guys have secure Vault's place in world affairs and industry, made them extremely powerful. But really, there's nothing for these guys to do. They're just superheroes, laying about, living idle lives because there aren't any supervillains. So Vault has created this illusion that they are heroic and doing, great things for society, when really they're just doing sexual depravity and basically smashing people's heads in. More on that later. The Soups was a superhero. The Boys was a superhero comic book, and I never got into it because the covers just looked sick. I mean, there's a lot of sexual things being private on the cover, and it seemed like that was their whole stick, and it didn't seem very interesting. But the TV show came out, and I thought I'd give it a shot. And it turns out that the boys aren't the superheroes, but instead a kind of CIA or CIA adjacent task force designed to keep the Soups in line. And these guys are being led by Billy Butcher. And the show kind of starts off that the Soups are getting more and more off the reservation. Usually they do something stupid, and Butcher will bring them back in line through threats or blackmail, even murder if he has to. But now, led by Homelander, who is the strongest Soup by far, and the strongest Soup apparently ever. And he is deciding that instead of just being this face of the company, he should be in charge of everything. And eventually he decides that he's literally God. And that's where we are now. Uh, we've gotten to the point where we're at the end of the line. And like I said, the next episode's the last one ever. The show's being canceled. There will be some other things coming on. Like I think the Vote Rising is a TV show that's supposed to be coming out soon. And then there's one called The Boys Mexico that's also being planned. So this universe will continue, but The Boys will end. And along with Billy, he's got this team of experts who, rein in, and they pretty much live by the motto that knowledge is power, because none of them have superpowers initially. So they are basically just able to defeat the Soups of the world by knowing all their secrets and weaknesses and stuff like that. But now we got Homelander who decided to take over the world, and it's just really grim. And because of this, and because of the nature of their idle lifestyle, they pretty much do whatever they want to. A lot of sexual misadventures, and when push comes to shove, they'll kill people. Homelander in particular, is just and there's no real repercussions for that. And as he gets more and more power hungry, those repercussions become even less. And among this is Huey, who teams up with Butcher. He's a normal guy. He gets drawn into this by circumstances, and at first he seeks revenge, and now he's kind of like the conscience of the group, where he often has the stance of we shouldn't be doing all this violence. We should be helping people. We should be trying to stop the Soups without necessarily killing them. And that's a conflict between him and Butcher, because Butcher is ruthless and he wants to kill everything. So the story is not so much about good versus evil, but evil versus not so evil. In the case of the boys, who would do anything to stop the Soups, with the idea being that we're doing this for the betterment of the world. It's hard to not argue that, because the Soups are horrible. So if you haven't seen the show, it is pretty good. It's gotten to the point where it's gotten to be a little bit too much of the same thing over and over again. This, like I mentioned before, that there's a lot of people getting their heads smashed in and murdered because the suits have no checks on their powers. And, we're at a point where that's not as shocking anymore. The literal first scene is somebody being murdered by a suit. And so now it's really like, okay, they're running out of people to kill. And it's not quite as interesting. I find myself feeling the same way about Invincible, another Prime story about superheroes. Except this one's animated, and that one entails of a lot of dismemberment, people getting killed in very graphic manners. And like I said, there's a point where it's like, okay, that's enough. And for the boys, that came wrong at the time. I think the episode's called Hero Gasm. If you don't know what it is disturbing to say the least. But it's kind of like the peak of this sex/murder that these guys go through. And now it's really getting to be redundant, and the show needs to end. A lot of people thought that last season was going to be the end, but it seems like, yeah, we're going to end it at season 4. It's just really, I mean, season 5. There's really nowhere for the show to go. And this is not me being a prude and clutch the pearls because they're killing people and showing naughty but spits and stuff like that. But it really is a point of is how many times you see somebody with a gigantic penis and it's not shocking anymore. And with Homelander's trick of just crushing people's heads and nearby people being covered in blood and entrails, it's dumb, you know. And is there more stories here? Maybe, but not this particular story. I strongly suspect that if the rest of the series has been an indication, this series on May 20th will end with a lot of gore and people being covered in blood and body parts and brain matter. And Homelander will probably die. I'm predicting that that's what's going to happen to him because he is just an absolutely horrible person. And we need to have that happen so there can be some conclusion to the story. Butcher, I suspect, is going to die, or somebody. It's going to be a lot of people dead and a lot of headless bodies laying around, and then they can move on and do something else. I don't know. I mean, if you haven't seen it and you've heard about it, if what I've said is not really a thing, then you need to stay away because there's a lot of that. And who's going to get killed, and not just who's going to get killed, but who gets violently killed. And there's a shock factor to that that gives you kind of tuning in to see who the next one is. But after a while, it's just like, okay, who's going to get their head squeezed today? So I don't know. There is some appeal to the boys, but I think it's kind of outweighed its welcome. I kind of started to feel that way about the other show, um, Invincible, because they're doing the same things. Like how many times can you punch somebody through the midsection and pull out all their intestines? I mean, that's not fun. So, it's definitely time for the show to end. I definitely believe that Homelander's going to buy it, and Butcher's probably going to buy it too, and maybe some few other key characters. But what do you think? Have you watched The Boys? Do you enjoy? How you feeling like last season should have been the last season, and this one's just like, oh my god, okay, enough's enough? Or do you want more? Are you thirsty for more blood? Do you think that this could last for a while? Comment below.